Good, and a teacher, yes. Uh, are you his student? You know about him. All right. So over to you, Jerry. Yeah.
Hi, I'm very happy to have all of you here, but what it means is that as a workshop, it will get a little scrappy, and it will get, what we'll only be able to do is to hand you some basic fundamental tools, okay? So really, one of the best ways to begin to write is to think about what you know best. Now, that's a problem because we all tend to know a lot of things really well. We know some things fairly well, and we know most things not very well. But there's one thing on which you should be an expert, and that thing is yourself. So I want you to start this workshop by taking 10 minutes, taking out a piece of paper or your mobile phone or your iPad, your notebook, your tablet, whatever. Start by writing a love letter to yourself. Write a genuine, honest to God love letter to yourself that would make you fall in love with you. You have 10 minutes and then I will expect you to be really brave, and I'm going to have to ask you to read out your love letter to yourself so we can all talk about what makes a good, effective love letter that would make someone want to slump back in bed and say, I love this person. How many of you are under 18? Oh, Lord, 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 Lord. We edit those last lines out and let's just go with making you fall in love with yourself. Go for it, write that love letter, and if you start with dear dash, whatever your name is, take your pen and stab yourself in the head. Okay, you can't start with dear, whatever it is, because that's what everyone starts with. And if I get a love letter that says dear, whatever it is, I throw it into the dustbin. So you've got to start with a salutation to the self, which is meaningful and deep and significant and sensuous and warm and everything else that words can be when they are words that are sent out as an invitation to this party, this festivity, this celebration of life and love. Why are you not, say? You don't have a pen or a paper. Difficulties? Yeah, okay. There are some pens and some papers over here. If you don't have them, अरे कैसे कैसे लोग हैं वर्कशॉप में आए हुए व्यक्ति को पेपर और पेन don't bring paper or pen. What on earth are you thinking about? You can use your phone, you can use your, you can tattoo it on your forehead, you know. It's a love letter to yourself. Go for it, Jaipur. Show me how you love. No one is allowed to just sit here or stand here and not actually participate. You've got to be actually writing.
And Jerry, it could be any language.
Of course, it could be any language, and I can help you in, if you write in Croatian, I can help you if you write in Magyar, I can help you if you write in ancient Pali, and I can help you if you write in English. I'm hoping there are no people from the other three languages because I'm lying. I can't help you in any other language other than English, but I'm willing to make a big good shot at it because I have tried to write Hindi love story, love letters myself, and I've tried to write Marathi love letters, Konkani, Gujarati, and Urdu. In any of those 5 languages, happy to read. Hindi also, yes, but meri apni. Hi. So go for it!
Sorry, I have to also tell you that the pencils are strictly on a returnable basis. This is a young adult workshop space and we need them back, okay? You need a pencil and a paper.
Jaipur Literary Festival is having budgetary constraints. Pencils वापस कर दिए जाएंगे.
Yeah, the youth space always, Jerry, you should
Yeah?
know that, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Swines.
letter. Yes. Saying that with all the controversy, strictly your views are your own. Yes.
I'm good with Adolf Hitler.
Jerry.
All the views expressed in this workshop are my own views and not the views of the Jaipur Literary Festival. The Jaipur Literary Festival, listen, there are people who are rushing out because they, they decided it is not. So if anyone wants to come and sit down, please, that's all I'm saying. Other people also who want to leave can go. And you can go out, do susu and whatnot and come back also, no problem. It's not like you have to sit here and work. It's not an ye koi examination paper to nahi. Don't worry about it. So if you want to go outside, chill, come back, you're fine. And we've got about 7 minutes left. Actually, fourth row, you can say that about yourself, don't worry. You don't have to check with her. It's okay. Hey, you got my book. Oh, very good, Kabir. Well done. I like that. Good.
Yeah, because that was in that was Garu's first batch. Sunita. Yeah. Yes, please tell her. Please tell her.
No, no, no. I'm actually trying to exercise a very, very sort of like small faculty, which is the idea that there is of exploring the self, which we don't explore enough. And actually, there are many ways in which you can take this. You can actually take this in exercise in a joke. You can make it a long, extended joke. You can make it a serious exercise which you can continue over years. Actually, because finding something to love about yourself sometimes can be a terrible exercise if it is very fruitful. If you actually exercise truth, then to look past the frailties of yourself and to see who you really are and to love that person That's the exercise from which you can springboard into fiction. From which you can springboard into a belief that what we say has meaning for the universe. So part of it is narcissism, but it depends. Again, it's a knife. I put it in your hand, and you can cut yourself with it, or cut someone else with it, or or use it to heal. Yeah, you're done. People have finished with their love letters. Very good. There's another you over there in the middle, right there. Yeah, tell. Get him a mic.
Yeah, here. Just pass it down. Get the audience to pass it down.
Also, mics are returnable, huh?
Yeah, I'll make sure they are returned in a good condition.
Okay, very good.
Love is an honest expression that comes from
Who
within.
is? Who are you talking to?
Myself,
Very good. Who is you?
Pavas Jain.
Pavas.
Yeah.
How did you address Pavas? Your opening lines or your opening words. See, what are we fighting against when we write? We are fighting against amnesia and oblivion. Amnesia is simple. All words seek to hold some memory of the universe, some person, something, some event. And the other thing that we are fighting against is the oblivion of someone turning the page, someone reading something else. There, as you know, there are hundreds of thousands of things in your life which you can read. You can read a Facebook post, you can read an email, you can read a newspaper, you can read a magazine, you can read my novel, Bear for Felicia, which is meant for young adults and available at a special discount right around the corner at Full Circle. Commercial break. You can do all these readings, and so each time you write, you are making a bid for the attention and time of your reader. And that attention and time is often a very short span at the beginning. Many people will start when they're standing in a bookshop, will start by reading just the first few words, the first few lines. And in those lines, you have to throw out your net, and you have to trap them, and you have to draw them in, and you have to say 300 rupees for M in the Big Whom, available right around the corner, etc., 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 and make them pay. So the first lines that you write are always may not always be the first lines in your book. They may end up at the end of the book. They may end up in the middle. They may end up in the second chapter. But your first words must be words in which, if those words were your lifeline, holding you to life, those words must be powerful words with which you are making contact and holding on, pulling that reader in. Make those words count. Taliyan! Ye bhi koi baat hui? Didn't you have lunch? Go and clap properly. Pavas.
Love is an honest expression that comes from within. But
Hold
when
on. How many people agree? Love is an honest expression that comes from within. Put up your hands if you agree. Okay, put your hands down. How many people don't agree? Put your hands up. You cynics. Who broke your heart? And how many of you just don't care about the word love? And now this is the important thing. You will remember that English is a language that is poor in words for love. It has only this one word, love. You want to say, I love my mother. You want to say, I love rock lobster with butter sauce. You want to say, I love Salman Khan. You want to say, I love going to Jaipur. You want to say all these words which are very different emotions inside your head. But each of these words in English, you come back to the word love. Not in Greek. Greek has agape, eros, and philia. 3 different ways of looking at love. Hindi, ishq, mohabbat, pyar, prem, endless. Stop it, bas. We are writing Hindi film songs here. So I'm saying there are many ways. But in English, we have one 4-letter word. Now this word must be made to count. You have to wake it up. You have to shake that person who is thinking about love into thinking about love again. New, fresh, exciting. Ezra Pound, early 20th century, said everything you need to know about writing in 3 words. Make it new. The story is told. It's done. Millions of love letters have been written already. Millions more will be written. Make it new. That will not change. Powers. So, Powers' first response, when you start with an abstract noun. What is an abstract noun, anyone? Cannot, yeah. Okay, it's an intangible noun. So if you say, for instance, chair, then I have a chair, that's a chair. But if I say courage, that you can't hold, you can't feel, you can't touch, that's a noun that is intangible. Now the problem with abstract nouns is that they have been used so much that they have been ghasraud, they are worn out, they are weak, they can't do much work. So when you feel like using an abstract noun, go instead for an image. Think about a way of saying it that isn't an abstract noun. But go ahead. You have how many abstract nouns in that first line, Pavan?
Only one.
What is emotion?
Sorry?
Say,
Expression. Expression.
Expression,
Yeah.
abstract noun. Love, abstract noun.
Honesty. Honest expression.
Honest is an adjective. Adjectives are also a little bit of a problem. They sometimes hunt in pairs. Young and
Wild.
young and beautiful, yeah. Or young and wild, said someone. Wah re mere sher. Okay, but young and wild. But when you say young and beautiful or young and wild, no one is even thinking. You have to match young with something that's not young. You have to match young with another adjective and both will wake up. But if the adjectives have already been matched, if their sagai ho chuki, if their engagement was fixed already and their parents are razi and the dowry has been exchanged and these two are living together now, break them apart. Tod uski jodi. End it. Stop them from talking to each other. Make them talk to other adjectives. Young and,
Mature.
young and, young and, I don't know. And maybe we won't know. Young and venturous, young and young and sleepy. I love. And as a teacher, let me tell you, I teach an 8 a.m. class. Everyone is young and sleepy. And when you ask why, it's because they were up till 3 a.m. in the morning on Facebook. You know, yeah, whatever. But anyway, young and sleepy is very nice. I know young and sleepy. That's in my heart somewhere. We like killing young and sleepy. But anyway, chalo, haan, bolo.
When you love yourself, you love the whole world, you love your soul, you love the Almighty, and that is the reason I want to confess my love to myself.
Yeah! Go, Pavas! One of the easiest things to do is to avoid the specific. When you are addressing the loved object, you must tell the loved object specifically your breath, the back of your neck, the soft curve of your inner arm, the sound of your voice over the telephone when I've been sleeping late in the morning, the feeling I got in the car when your hair, blown by the breeze, touched my face. That is specific. That is coming to the real, the tangible, the emotional, the sensuous, the moving somewhere inside the stomach and waking up and coiling against the heart and pushing against the throat and forcing its way out, as the best words do, out of your mouth, because you can't stop yourself from saying them, even if you know that some of them are dangerous. That's love. That's love letter. You go to God, God is very happy. God loves you very much. But if this is a love letter to yourself, oops. Okay, we need another. Thank you, Pavas. We need another volunteer. 1 minute. Let me just see. I need now, young person here in the front with the sweater. The male, and then we'll come to you. And then we'll come over here, and then we'll have some more women's, because otherwise all the men's who find it much easier to love themselves, I think, in general. Ooh. Have you ever noticed when a man looks in a mirror, he sees how handsome he's looking? A woman looks in a mirror and says, oh my God, my hair, what happened? But it is actually about the fact that women are in closer touch with reality. Men have an imaginary self who looks out of the mirror, this stud bunny. Ooh, look at you, man. Women look and say, my God, what happened to you last night?
Okay. Hi, my name is Vandini, and here is my love letter. So it begins. Hi, I guess you probably don't know me, but I know you.
Lovely. I love the opening line. I just wonder about the hi.
Oh,
I don't know, I guess you don't know me, but I like that. I like the idea of two selves who are inside the same body talking to each other. That's a lovely opening line. Oh, hi ko maar dalo. Kill that hi. If you read a letter that started hi, would you feel, oh, this is a love letter? You think this is like come and meet and let's have coffee together. No? So drop that hi. That I don't know you, but you know me is a very nice opening. Chal.
Every day I see you, and also you may not be even aware of my existence.
You stalker. Nice, but still going well. Going well.
But I have to say, you're one of the most wonderful, beautiful, sweet, and bossy, and perfect person I've ever laid my eyes upon.
Yeah! Give her a roar! That is a genuine, bona fide, honest, good to goodness love letter to the self. The only thing, Vandini, no?
Yes.
Vandini, how many adjectives do you have in that last line? Okay, and am I sounding like a grammar teacher? Shut up! I'm not sounding like a grammar teacher. What do you mean I'm a grammar teacher? Okay, I'm sounding like a grammar teacher, that's all right. But see, actually grammar, Noam Chomsky said it beautifully. He said grammar is the depth logic of language. So for the average reader, if you are just a reader, you don't have to worry about grammar. But if you're a writer, you have to. You have to actually be looking at things like word territory. What I call word territory is, if you say wonderful in line 1, you can't use wonderful or wonder or wondrous or any form of wonder in line 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to let that wonder, you have to let wonder like a tiger have its own territory to wander about there. Okay? And then again you can bring wonder back later. Bad writers will bring the same word to play in the same paragraph, and the result is both the wonders fight with each other. It's a wonder that I love you, and I wonder why I love you. Neither wonder works well. So as writers, we have to be a lot more careful with language. We have to be a lot more in charge of our language, which often means looking at something like, how many adjectives do I have in a sentence? Look at your sentence, Vandini. How many adjectives do you have? The most?
Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 5.
You have 5 adjectives in that sentence.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
In fact, rule of thumb, 1 adjective, okay. 2 adjectives, overdoing it. 3 adjectives, not on. 4 adjectives, okay, are you sure you know what you're doing? Because if you know what you're doing and those 4 adjectives, each one is a separate add-on adjective which increases and deepens our sense of the noun that will follow, of the thing that will follow. Okay, I'm letting you. 5 adjectives, you have to be in command of those adjectives. Can you control them? Can you hold them? Do they sound correct together? Are they echoes of each other? Are they reinforcing each other? By the time you come to the 5th adjective, do you know what the first adjective did? How is this sentence shaping up? How will that noun, when that noun comes, will it surprise me? Will it startle me? Or will I just think, what noun? Now, that is why I'm not saying that 5 adjectives are wrong. Anything I say in this workshop is up for discussion and debate. You can ask questions and you can say, what idiot nonsense rubbish he's talking, who made him a writer, I can write better than that. You can say all that inside your head. You say it to me, I'll punch you in the chops. Okay? And I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, which is the art of the gentle and empty hand. But with one gesture, I can turn your head right around 360 degrees so that your neck vertebrae will be nothing of the kind. I don't even have Taekwondo. But I'm just saying, I'm trying to frighten you. Okay, so 5 adjectives means you must be in control of all those adjectives. I'm not saying you're not. I'm saying you need to be thinking about this. Thank you very much, Vandini. We'll have another one here, we said, right? This guy. Right to the front, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Paresh.
Go Paresh.
Sand,
Go Paresh.
sand dunes, the shifting shapes of my desire. At the bottom of the silk-clad makeshift stairs, you sit engrossed on a phone screen. Your thoughts,
I think you both should get up. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
your thoughts bleeding out like damp moss. Your eyes screwed up, gazing at a horizon miles away.
Wonderful. Okay, what are we seeing here? Thank you so much, Paresh. I like the opening. Why is it a different opening? It paints an image. Very good. Second, any other reason why you think, yeah.
It sounded like poetry.
It sounded like poetry.
The person to whom it is addressed does not know that it is addressed to them. So
Correct. Anybody else? Remember, a workshop actually works better if we all participate. Over there at the back, yeah. Shout, shout. You don't know where it's going, so you read on. Actually, what I really liked about it also was the change in landscape. Instead of a you are this kind of person, you were suddenly on a sand dune, right? And then there was moss and a staircase. It read a bit like a surrealist painting. There were many elements in it that didn't seem to match, but the overall picture that we were getting was of something interesting happening. And I think this is again what we need to be thinking about when we write. Words set against words often are logical. Words that are not logical may have a deeper meaning than words that are. But it's a risky game to play. And in that risk, is the promise of making something new. Yeah? Okay, you.
Seemingly sentimental Samir. Few things compel me to admit to my weaknesses in public, and you happen to be one of them. I have postponed this for far too long, and I don't think I can do this anymore, especially because your fascinating brown eyes have started looking at all sorts of people. I really don't think you should have given away all those pizza slices. I could see that you wanted them, and as your muscular hands gave the pizzas away, it broke my heart. It is the strength of your heart that makes me weak. Your ability to do your very best for everyone is what is making you ignore me. I love you for the fact that you'd do anything for anyone, but that is what is making me weak. My love is weakness, and I am you.
तेरे से बहुत इश्क लड़ा रहे. Okay, what really started us enjoying this? What is the moment? Yeah, okay. The sense of humor. You don't expect to find a sense of humor at work in a love letter. Well said, Young. What's your name? Come on, you got lungs. Sitansh, no? Hitansh. Okay, come on. First, open your chest up. Put your shoulders back. Hold your hands together like that. To open them up. Come on. And now shout your name. Thank you. Why do you do that, you know? Because this is your diaphragm, and your diaphragm muscles control your chest. If you sit like that, then you say, and your mom must be already telling you, become a hunchback. So if you open up your chest when you need to speak, you'll immediately look bigger, muscular, and your breath will be longer, so you'll be able to speak better. So don't. Sorry. Now what do I sound like? PT teacher? Sorry. Okay. Okay, but what is there's another thing that happened suddenly to us. What happened? When we began to realize that we had to laugh. When we realized that this was a funny piece. The pizza slices, no? Like this moment of those muscular hands giving away pizza slices, like, oh really, muscular hands. I like that. I mean, I thought that was really fun and interesting and just plain bizarre. Yeah. I don't know if you should love yourself actually. I'm joking. Yeah. Red beret.
Hi, my name is Sonali. The letter starts with just by saying you. You really? You. You shouldn't really be surprised. It was either a letter or a full blown TV show that would have peeled you away from your fantasy world to me. And, sorry, you. You shouldn't really be surprised. It was either a letter or a full blown TV show that would have peeled you away from your fantasy world to me. And that's all I really want. I want to be the man who makes you leave your Darcys and your Wentworths, your Bruce Waynes and Sherlocks, your Adam Levines and Benjamin Berlins, and turn your attention to me. But only for a little while, because more than anything else, I want to be part of your fantasies. The view that looks at the world with optimism, a pair of eyes that makes me into the hero that I'd want to be. More than anything else, I want to see you embrace your adventures and run with you to save the world from the fire-breathing dragons.
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
At that point in time, what was the moment when you began to think, eh? Yeah, that she's become a man who's in love with her. You know, so a really interesting gender shift suddenly happened. So we had a woman writing a love letter to herself in the guise of a man speaking to a woman who's in love with other men who are fantasy men. Only unfortunately the man who is speaking to the woman is a fantasy created by the woman who's in love with fantasy men. It's just really nicely twisted and, and strange, and Pedro Almodovar would probably want to make a film about it. Okay. Tell me one thing, those of you who read, what was the most difficult moment? Anybody? Pavas? What was the most difficult moment about reading? No, reading out what you wrote. There was no difficult moment. Okay. The beginning, that first few words when you're taking that step, right? Vandini? Yeah, but what did you feel when you were reading it out? A bit nervous, right? Very good. Yeah, that's what happens to us. Paresh. Okay. Actually, what happens at that moment when you're reading something you've written out is a moment of deep exposure also. You're saying to yourself, this is, to other people, this is who I am. And now this was an exercise, right? It's an exercise that we did, and we did it in a good humored spirit. We did it because it's an exercise. We did it because everybody's working on this together. And it's one afternoon worth of fun. And you'll all go back, and Paresh will go back to being he'll go back to being a sand dune, said someone. But naval officer is what? And he'll go back to being a student in Delhi University, and will go back to being an editor, and Vandini will go back to being a student. Those are our other lives. When you're a writer, this is your life. Your life is made up of relentless self-exposure. Whether you are writing about somebody else or you're writing about yourself, whether you're writing as a teddy bear or you're writing as Leela Naidu, you are still Jerry Pinto. You are still that singular person who's producing words. And everyone around you has the right to say those words are bad, or they don't work. Oh my God, how boring. Okay? So it is like standing up naked in public. And everyone is open, is invited to laugh at you. It's a moment when you act. If you're a writer, reading out what you have written to people who are alive and in front of you is probably one of the most difficult things you have to do. And the only way to do it is to actually drink a lot of white wine and keep drinking it out of a coffee cup while you are conducting a workshop. I wasn't doing that, but other people do that. You know, I don't know who those other people are. Okay. I have, I think, time for about 2 or 3 questions. So if anyone has a question, would you please? You want to workshop your piece. Anyone has a question, and then we'll come. Yeah. Question 1 row back. Yeah. 1 row back in a dark red sweater with a frown, a serious frown. Huh, say?
My question is, do we look for order in abstract piece of writing as well? I mean, order.
Do we look for order in an abstract piece of writing as well?
Yes.
What's your name?
Gajendra.
Rajiv what?
Gajendra Sharma.
Rajendra Sharma. See, I think one of the things to be aware of when you are entering any writing space, any encounter with the written word, is there are two ways of doing it. One is to set up your own order and your own priorities. I read this book because I thought it would help me deal with my world. It didn't. Therefore, it is a failure as a book. I read this book because I thought I would learn how the person who wrote it dealt with his world. It helped me do that. It worked for me as a book. These are two readers who have looked at the same book. For one, it has failed totally. For one, it has succeeded. The thing about reading is that one of the things you've got to do is put down your baggage and try to look at what the writer wants you to experience. The writer is offering an experience. It's an illusion. All words are an abstraction of reality. When I say the word chair, there is no chair there.
Hello.
There's only the word chair. But you know that word because you've experienced its reality. So when I say, I don't know, foie gras, if you haven't eaten foie gras, perhaps you won't experience that reality, either in your mind or your taste buds. Does that make it a failure of a word? Perhaps. Does it make it a failure for you? Possibly. So when you look for something inside a text, that may be there, depending on whether you want to find it or not. Because if you look hard enough, you can find anything you want, anywhere you want. The great Wittgensteinian paradox is, I went home expecting a surprise. There was no surprise. I was therefore surprised. I don't know how to answer that, so I know what you meant,
Yeah. Is there a rule when you're writing your first book ever for a young or aspiring writer that how long should it take, or I mean?
Okay, the rule for any first book author is it must take you 42 years, 6 days and 12 minutes precisely. At the 12th minute, you must stop writing, put down your pen and submit your papers neatly tied with all the supplements marked individually and with your number, what is it called, number? Roll number on it. No, there isn't. Go for it.
But how
And
do
if there
you
is
know,
a rule,
like,
how do you know? Because
many
Jerry Pinto
months?
told you, and Jerry Pinto makes the rules. I make the rules. You get it? I make the rules. In my workshop, I make the rules. You go out there, you do your workshop, you make other rules. I make other rules in my workshop.
Thank you.
I don't need a mic.
Okay, hush up.
Yeah, I don't need a mic. So you said earlier that the best thing...
I said earlier. वो पहले का जेरी था वो okay say
You said the best trick is to come up with something new. Like it should be new. It doesn't matter. But you don't know if it would have the desired impact. Like if I say to a girl, you look beautiful, she will at least get it. If not, be very happy about it. But if I come up with something, you shine like the surface of this river. I don't know. Like Yamuna River. Yamuna. It tends to stick to the old stuff, no?
बोल हंसो तो बोल which you prefer you shine like the surface of a river or हाँ okay I would like to do to you what the spring does to cherry trees. Neruda, not Jerry. Pablo Neruda. But yaar, you read that and kuch pighal jata hai andar. Something melts from here and goes into your stomach and forms a warm, solid mass there, and you think, हाँ करना करना. The trick is new and effective. Now, how effective? वो तो try करके. But be careful. Ladies also have networks, and they'll tell other people. वो ना वो बोल देगा. He'll take you out for dinner and he'll say, I want to do to you what something trees and cherry blossom. वो उसका boot polish है, cherry blossom boot polish. सुनने का नहीं. Okay, so be careful. Don't try the same line too often. And here there are reasons to write which are outside patawing ladkis. हाँ, say, yeah.
central idea. The central idea of the story. For example, if you can figure out the central figures, so how do you bound your stories? Okay, beyond this limit, I don't need to go into X, Y, Z of it.
No, I tell you what. When I wrote M in the Big Room, I wrote 750,000 words. Okay, that is 3 times the size of War and Peace. Okay, lots. And eventually it became a 40,000 word book. But it does not mean that I wasted time and I could have just written 40,000 words. I couldn't. I wrote 750,000 words because 40,000 words then I could extract from that. It's exactly like mining. You will bring up a huge amount of ore from the mine inside and you will place it there and then you will refine it. The process is refining. And refining means looking for that one moment where suddenly ek thoda sa something begins to shine. And you think, that's the gold I'm looking for. Now, how do you recognize that? Often, my friend Shanta Gokhale, for instance, does not start writing a novel until she knows what each chapter will contain. I take off my hat to that. That's fabulous. Because then if you're ever you're stuck at one chapter, you just go to another chapter, write that, and then you can come back. I can't work like that. I work instinctively. Like I work and I'm writing and then she died, I read. And then, no, she can't die right now. Then I cancel that out. But I'm trying it out. As I'm writing it, I'm trying it. Both ways work. You go find your way. And you will find your way only by experiencing the magnificent delight that is writing. So, take a book, take a pen, write the. See what follows. The se kaam nahi chalta hai, write I. See what follows. I doesn't work right, and. See what follows, and then just keep going. Take a word for a walk. Yeah? And maja kar, aish kar. Don't feel how will this be published, what is this like, who is publishing it. Wo baad mein, sab baad mein. Right now, just work with it. Take the line, do this, do that. You are God. You want to kill somebody, kill them. You want to make someone born them. Just go for it, man. That's the serious delight of writing.
Hello?
The problem that I often face is in writing fiction, creating characters and giving them details.
Chori! Rob from real life. Rob everyone you can and put them in your books. But just change some details. 1 or 2 details change, no one will recognize. Especially the villains won't recognize. Because villains never think of themselves as villains. So you can put your mother-in-law in as the book. And she'll say, nahi, ye to main thodi ho sakti hu, I'm not like this. No one will know at all. Nani ke bare mein baat kar raha hai. And mummy has rahi hai.
Hello?
Besharam.
The difference between a short story and a long book. For example, I really fascinated with short story. So is there a same formula which you think? And the second is, for example, chair. When you talk about chair. So when you say chair, now for example, some writers would use actually, as they say, their glossary will be thicker than their actual story. So like for example, chair could be this and chair could be something else. So what do you think that glossary in terms of helps, or it reduces the person who's reading it?
Okay, the first question was, what is the difference between a short story and a novel? The length, basically. Short story is short, novel is long. But the short story, in the real world, the short story collection is much more difficult to publish, especially in English for some reason. In other languages other than English, in Hindi, in Marathi, in Urdu, in Gujarati, in all the other languages, there are very lively traditions of short stories because there are lively magazines that publish these short stories. There are Visheshanks, there are Diwali Anks, there are Pujo Anks, etc., which publish short stories. So you'll find much more short stories writers in Hindi, Marathi, all the others. English has much fewer short stories because people, I am told, don't buy short story collections. I don't know. I think I will start by looking through a book and read one paragraph. If I like it, I will buy the book. I'll take a risk on it. 300 rupiah hai. What is there? I might get a great book or I might get a bad book, but I don't mind. But other people seem not, publishers think that short stories are difficult to publish. So most of the time they tell people, go and do a novel. And I think that's really bad. If your spirit is the spirit of a short story writer, you should write short stories. If your spirit is the spirit of a novelist, you should write novels. How much time do we have left before I keep? 10 minutes? Okay.
In your session,
Haan.
in your session,
in your session writing Meri Jaan, which is in the morning, you said that if you would write a book and it hurt or offended some of the characters or some of your family members, you wouldn't publish it. But suppose if a writer wants to really write a novel and it does offend someone, but he's very passionate about writing that, should he continue writing it and publishing it, or shouldn't?
Okay, what I said was, just to make it clear, when I finished, can you hear me at the back? When I finished writing M in the Big Home, it was an autobiographical novel. So it was 95% fiction and 95% autobiography. So it was as much fiction as it was, no, it is actually possible, really. It was as much fiction as it was fact. And so when I finished writing it, if my mother were alive, my father were alive, I would have shown it to them and asked them whether they were okay with it. Neither was alive. I know my mother had no problems, because when I told her, I was writing this for 20 years, right? So I used to tell my mother, I'm writing about you and I'm going to put this in the book. And she said, don't be silly, don't write about me, write about some blonde. And, you know, put car chases and murders and missing diamonds, or no one will buy your book. Who will read about me? So I knew that she was okay with me writing about her. So then I went to the one person whom I would not hurt in the world, which is my sister, and I said, read this book, it's autobiographical and it is fiction. And she read it and she was okay with it. Then if everyone else in the world is offended, I don't care. I don't care who else is offended. I don't want to hurt someone I love. I would not. I think no book is hurting someone I love. So I would not do that. But I love very few people. So it's all right. I love about 6, 8 people in the world. Most of them don't read what I write also. But no, I never said. This is young adults. All young adults only I'm seeing. Huh.
So when you told us about how it needs to be new, make it new, I thought about M in the Big Home. I've really enjoyed it, and so that thing about the way what my question is, when you're trying to make it new, should it be the what or the how of it? You know. Can I continue, like a little bit more maybe? So when I read also, when I read Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea, if you take out the how out of it, it's just about fish, right? Like who cares? but the how is so important. So my question is, how important is the climax and the storyline and the characters and the the nitty-gritty details of the story? And I mean, I'm one person who wouldn't care about that. Like for me, it's the style, it's the mood that flows out of my head into the paper, and for me, it's just that. Like I really don't care what happens. I mean, who cares what the climax is as long as it's making sense in the moment. So even M in the Big Home is like that. You know, it's about I mean, I found it a very, very, very family story-like thing. You know, like any family could be that way. But the way that you viewed your family, the narrator talks about his mother, sister. I think the how is just so much more important. Can you talk a little bit about that?
You know, I think she asked a question and she answered it as well perfectly. So yes, it is the how, it's not the what, because the what is done to death already. Everyone's got the what. You just need to do the how, and the how flows from the who. Who are you? And if you can talk from that who, then the how becomes your how as opposed to anyone else's how.
I think a lot of people might be interested, is can you throw some light on the writer's block, invoking the muse?
Okay, very straightforward. Now I am not even going to give you Jerry Pinto's view on writer's block. I am going to give you Gabriel Garcia Marquez's view on writer's block. In the evening, says Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who has won the Nobel Prize for Literature. So it is like with the chapa of the Nobel Prize, as opposed to the Hindu Lit for Life, which Jerry Pinto won, which is nothing compared to, even in money terms, Nobel Prize is a beautiful dream. Okay, Gabriel Garcia Marquez simply says, in the morning, in the night, read a page of someone whose work you love and go to sleep. In the morning, write what you must. And you will always find that in the morning, what you have read just before sleeping has been worked alchemically into your brain and has given you something to read in the morning, to write in the morning. Mine? my writer's block is, I say to myself, Besharam, Behaya, Nirlaj, Kaam Kar. You complete rotten, lazy bounder. The world has been kind enough to publish what you have written, to read it, to respond to it, to write to you about it. You do your share of the bargain. You get down there and write. And if you don't like writing this morning, or you feel it is tedious, or if you feel it is painful, sucks to you, still do your work. Imagine if if your cook came and said, I have cook's block. I cannot cook. You'd say, "Aisi then you cannot eat," you would say to the cook. You do not get money. Yeah, so I say when you are blocked, write through the block. Write the bad, the sad, the ugly, the failing, the miserable, the pointless words, and suddenly you will break through into the green and fresh words again. Suddenly. But you will not come to those green and fresh words if you are not putting those bad, sad, pointless, ugly, miserable words down and coming to those words. So keep writing through. Push, push. You have to be your own icebreaker. Push through. And it will be there. It is waiting for you. There are green words waiting for you. You must work to get to them.
I have a problem with phrases. For instance, I come up with really good phrases in my head, but the thing is, people around me use better phrases. For instance, you just said relentless self-exposure. So I will be using this phrase somewhere and I'll feel very guilty. Yeah, exactly. So I'll feel very guilty for using. Yes, yes. I get your sarcasm, but the thing is, yeah, so do you do that too?
Okay, I think Harold Bloom has written a lovely book called The Anxiety of Influence. And all language progresses through what we call mimesis, which is imitation. We learn to speak based on imitating our parents. Okay? So we often pick up their worst habits and their best habits as well. So I don't think you should worry about, consciously what you should not be doing is trolling for other people's phrases. But you can, what often happens to me is I think, array, how beautifully that was said. And then I say, okay, it was said beautifully, but it is his, and then I forget about it. But it's going to sneak back somewhere. And I'm going to work some jadoo tona on it and change one word and phrase and hope that that person doesn't see and whatnot. But we all doing this, don't worry. All of us. And if you are brazen enough, if you read M and the Big Whom, you will find there are lots of quotes. There is Nissim Ezekiel, Ernest Hemingway, Nathaniel Hawthorne. All my favorite authors are there, and I haven't even bothered to say. M says they burn buses, don't they? And everyone knows they shoot horses, don't they? She's echoing something. She's just doing her thing with language. And this is our thing with language, that we proceed by imitating each other, and that's fine, as long as we don't get stuck in a mono imitation of one person. Yeah? Which can often happen when you are younger, and there is someone in your world who has a fascinating turn of phrase, and who speaks so beautifully that you feel, I want to talk like that. This is so nice. You know, you want to absorb, sponge like everything they're saying and then say it to other people, with elegance. And of course, they are saying it with this elegance and you're sounding like a bumbler. But I understand that it's part of your apprenticeship in language. It is apprenticeship, it will pass. One day you will be yourself and there will be someone saying, ooh, nice phrase, and thinking, but suppose I say and then she hears that I said, she'll think that I'm only saying her phrases, then what she'll think about me. And that constant nonsense will go on in our head. We sometimes tend to make complications where there are none. Most phrase makers forget their phrases and go on. Because I would never give anybody a phrase free. Totally, so you can use it. Le, majja kar, aish kar. Or mere ko bula, when you're relentlessly, or pat. But I'm hanging around outside anytime you come up and you can come and ask a question. I'm happy to answer. And sometimes I say, but that's just because I'm having a bad moment. That's all.
Okay, I just want to ask you, how do you yourself assess yourself as a writer?
Take one small part of Hemingway. Then fry a little Marquez. spread Sylvia Plath on the garnish. In between, put a little Dostoevsky, Shakespeare, Nietzsche. In my bad moments, when I am at my worst, I think I'm a good writer. When I'm actually trying to work, I know that you are only as good as your last artisanal activity. Writing is like making pots. Pots are either good or bad. Writing is either good or bad. So that grounds you. That makes you, sometimes you feel, there are moments, just some moments, when suddenly it is running like a river. Grrrr, words are coming. And you're feeling so good about it because they're just coming. It's not like you're making any effort. You're writing and it is flowing passionate, loose, carefree. It is a river. And you're thinking, this is why I write. And the next day you read it and it is shite. It is diarrhea. It is running like diarrhea. It is only running not through the hand. It is running through another part. And it is coming out on the paper. And you thought it was wonderful that day. But all diarrhea is fertilizer. And you will grow good crops out of the fertilizer of that.
Jerry.